Thank you for joining us for part 4 of 15 for Sites and Locations webinar, which is part of our Exxat Prism training series. Helping me today on this webinar are two of my colleagues, Sai Krishner, who serves as a customer support specialist. He will be your main presenter today, and Ami, who is joining, will assist with monitoring the chat alongside of myself. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. This webinar is recorded, and you will receive a copy of the recording 2 hours after the webinar is complete. You will also be able to find the recording on our Exxat YouTube channel posted under Exxat Prism Training Series. You will find today's presentation attached in the handout section in the Go to Webinar control panel. Feel free to follow along. Please use the questions section to ask questions or comment throughout the presentation. We will be manning the questions and addressing them during the question breaks. If you have technical difficulties, please use the chat box and we will help you out. Today, we have an audience from multiple disciplines. We will be using screenshots and data from different disciplines across our slides. We will also use a combination of the live system and slides as needed. Thank you for joining us. Sai, go ahead.
Thank you, Shanda, for the quick introduction. So, team, in our previous webinar, we discussed about the student compliances in detail, like how do we set up student documents, templates, and how do we publish them. But in our today's presentation, we will go through in detail about sites and location. Before we deep dive, I would like to first show you the live screen. So when you log in into your exact account, either you can navigate using this tiny three dashes, which looks like a hamburger button on the left hand side, and click on Sites, or the first tile under Placement Management is the Sites. So when you click on it, we will deep dive in detail about each and every ribbon or each and every tab of this ribbon. The by default landing page of this particular site tab is Location, but we will start with Setup. First, we will cover this entire ribbon, and we also have detailed discussions or topics on location, personal, and we will circle back again on email, explore clinical locations, reports, and dashboard in the PowerPoint presentation. So let me share my screen on PowerPoint presentation. As Shanda mentioned that I'll be the customer success specialist who will be doing this today's presentation. Let me go over today's agenda. First, we will understand overview of sites and location. How do we add sites? How do we see the site profile information? How do we add contracts? How do we see the locations and add locations into it? How do we see the locations on a map view using explore clinical locations, slots, and how do we extract the information and reports, and sharing resources with sites. And also at the end, we will also go through help resources. So first is overview. So when we go on Google and type sites, we will know that the definition says it's where the business takes place. And when we type location, is the place where the patient care takes place. So you might have this question, what is a site? Overarching entity or a corporation where we basically have our contracts built, have our guidelines set up, and where the business happens actually. Students never have a placement at that site, but we can house those documents, contracts, people whom we are working on that particular site. But what is location? Where the patient care takes place. And students always have a placement on a location, but they also have location specific documents where they can see for which site the contract has associated any clinician who is been mapped with them. Moving on to the next, which is site organization. So nursing and PA recommendation. They call sites as hospitals and location as units. For PT and OT, the recommendation is sites as health system and location as hospitals. So for example, when we take nursing and PA as a recommendation, you can say NYU Longon Medical Center is basically the site. And for location, the NICU, the 7 North, is basically the location. For PT and OT, the site is NYU Health, but the location is Longon Medical Center. Moving on to the sites now. The first tab when we log in on the left hand side, either we will click on sites and we will click on setup. Please note that the landing page is location, but we will start with setup. Under setup, the first tab is announcements. So when you click on announcements on the right hand side, you will have add announcements button. So when you add an announcement using this particular feature, this announcement will show up on site resources page. And please note that before we end this today's session, we also deep dive on where do we see this site resources page, each and every tab of this particular site resource. And once the announcement is set on the site resources page, as you can see on the left hand side, the site announcement is shown. When you click on show mode, a drawer is open on the right hand side where you can read through the entire message which is set. Next, under setup is resources, where we can create a custom category list where we can share a resources with sites. For example, student resources, where you can share a channel or an onboarding document which you can share it with a site. If that particular requirement or the document is marked as shared on site resources, as you can see it under resources, those information will only show up on site resources page. On the site resources page, on the left hand side, you will have site category list. When you click on it, on the right hand side, you will see the list of resources which are being shared. And you can apply filter to just see a particular resource. It can be a document, video, link, or a frequently asked question. Next, under setup is site organization. So when we are adding a site, if you are wish to categorize the sites by a particular category, like for example, if it's a private practice, if it's a standalone clinic, and if we talk about personnel, when we are associating or adding a personnel, and if we wish to create a category like understands the sign language, those information first we need to add it under setup under site organization. How do we do that? When you click on this pencil icon, a drawer will appear where at the bottom you will see a button which says add site slash location category, and once you save it, that will start appearing here. Likewise for personnel, when you click on the pencil icon, the drawer will appear, and click on add personal category. You can add a new category it and save that information. Likewise location area, when you click on the pencil icon, the drawer will open where the in area, out area, and out of state area are the standard options that cannot be deleted. But apart from them, you can add a new location area by clicking at the bottom button and save that information so that you can map it with a particular site or location. Contract organization. On this page, we have two options: contract category, routing checklist. I do know that the example which I'm using is basically a shared model, a Exxat Prism shared model. That's why I don't have a pencil icon for routing checklist. So only the institutional level admin can edit this particular checklist, but I can show you contract category. You will have a pencil icon, a drawer will open where you can click on add contract category. You can specify a new category in it and save this information. So when we talk about sharing model, right? So Exact Prism offers different sharing models like a program sharing sites and non-sharing model. So when we talk about sharing model, currently my example which I'm showing you right now is Exact Prism, which is a by default recommended sharing setup. Helps the institutes to create and maintain a single entry of all their common sites, location, contracts in Prism and share it with across all the programs within that same institution. So when we say sharing common detail means ability to view the sites and location and the contracts added by the institutional level admin and any program within that particular institution add and they will be able to do the same. Also, they can claim the sites along with the locations contracts added by the another program or institutional level admin by associating your program to it. They will be able to do the same, and any modifications that have been shared will be visible to all the programs. And non-sharing model where each program will be maintaining their own set of details added by their one program will not be able to share by another program. We also have a table which is shared across program and not shared across, shows shared across program and not shared. So when we talk about shared across program with respect to sites, the details such as site basic information, site address, contact information, program details, and which is not checked across program is like requirements which needs to be uploaded by the students, any particular practice specialty which needs to be assigned at the site, any document, guidelines, notes, tags, particular categories, any communication which has happened with that site or any intervention which has took place, any assessments which were done, any slots which were added. Likewise, for the contracts, we can share the contract basic details, contract details like the program which is covering, location which is covering, rotation checklist, contract documents, and the tags. Which does not shared across the program is the category of that particular contract. Locations. What locations, basic information, address information, location information such as contracts can be seen on the location level. But what is not shared is setting categories, location tags, student requirement, housing and parking facilities, personal associations, and personal details cannot be shared across program. Those individual personal needs to be managed by their respective program itself. Moving on to the Sites tab. So till now we have covered the first tab of the site. Next is Sites. So when we click on Sites, on the right hand side you will see a Add Site button. And when you click on Add Site, you will see a drawer coming up where you will specify the basic information, address information, and the contact information. You have to fill out the mandatory information. If it's an overarching site, you will never check off the tiny checkbox which says, do you want to add this site as a location? But if it's a same location where we are sending our students for their clinical rotation and where we are having a contract built in, then we have to ensure that the tiny checkbox have been checked off. Under Sites, next tab is Locations. On this page, this is a centralized database for the entire program where you can see all the list of locations which have been added and associated with their respective corporations, so that you can extract this information in a spreadsheet format, or you can even customize the columns by dragging up and down or changing the sequence of that particular grid and extract this information in a spreadsheet format. Also, you can apply filter on program for which program this particular location is applicable, or if you're looking for a particular program locations, you can also apply that, whether it's an active site, whether it's an inactive site, included any preceptor, any particular tags or any designations, or if you wish to see how many like particular setting locations we are having in the system, you can also apply filter on practice setting, any particular personal category, we can have them. Next is personnel. Under personnel, we will be able to see all the list of clinical personnel has been added into the system are associated with the sites and location. In order to extract their information, you will be clicking on the tiny page icon, which will allow you to extract that information as a report. The wrench icon will allow you to edit the column, like if you wish to change the sequence of the column, or if you wish to remove a couple of rows or columns from the grid. But please do remember, this is a runtime report. If you refresh your page, everything will get back to reset. The final icon allows you to slice and dice the information so that you can narrow down the report and see what exactly is required. So edit column will allow you to delete the particular column or change the sequence of the column. Even six dots will allow you to drag and drop top and bottom. Funnel icon allows you to apply filter so that for that particular program you can extract those personal information, or for a particular status, or including that particular preceptor designation, any practice setting, or a personal category as well. Next is contracts. On this particular contracts page, as I mentioned earlier, this is a centralized database. If the contracts information is being housed in Prism, if you click on this particular tab, you will see two tabs: sites with contracts, sites with missing contracts. Under sites with contracts, when you wish to download this report, you will click on the page icon. The wrench icon will allow you to edit, but the most interesting thing here is the funnel icon. When you click on the funnel icon, if you wish to know that, if you wish to extract a report which is the list of contracts which are going to expire soon, then you can click on expiration and apply a particular filter, such as expiring in 30 days. I need a list of all the locations which are going to expire in particular 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or a particular time range or uh, date range, which you can apply and then click on the report icon. Sites with missing contracts. If we have not added any contracts for a particular site, you will be able to see those sites under this particular tab. Emails is something which I'll be covering in detail few minutes down the line. Explore clinical location, where we will see all the locations on a map view. We will be covering this in detail. Likewise, reports. We also have reports built for sites, location, personals in detail. dashboard which will give you a statistical information of all the sites and locations, and those buttons are again clickable and see those information there. Site profile. So coming back to the first tab, when we click on sites and when we add a site using add button, you will see that site under list. When you see that site and click on that button, you will land on a particular site where you will see the first tab as about. The basic information which you have added to add that site is basically the about. When you click on the pencil icon, the drawer will show up where you can see the site information. And if you wish to change any information which you have previously added, this basic information or the pencil icon will allow you to edit that. And when make sure that once you have edited the information, you have to hit the save icon. Next is program. If this site is applicable to more than one program or shared across more than one program, when you click on this pencil icon, a drawer will show up and all the options will of, of multiple programs will show up. You have to click on those check boxes for which this particular site is applicable and hit save. Requirements. If this particular site has a particular requirements, these are site specific requirements. Once a student is placed, they might need to carry or they might need to know these are the set of requirements they need to ensure that those are completed. So when we click on the pencil icon, you'll be able to type in all the requirements for this particular site. And if you are going to add any requirement under this particular drawer, those will be also inherited by the locations. Once we save this information, you will be able to see that in grid. Next is any requirement which we wish to capture it from the students as a signed off a document or approved document. Then you will click on the plus icon under site requirement upload share via profile. You'll be able to add the requirements here, and any new requirement added or changed made after the existing requirements will not be visible to the students who have begun or already completed the placements at that site. And you need to ensure that the enable for students are included in profile is turned on. You'll be able to upload a template as well for this particular requirement if a student needs to follow. Next is setting. So if you wish to map a setting to a particular site, when you click on this pencil icon, you will be able to see the list of settings which have been added under program details. And if you map this setting and few years down the line, if you wish to extract a report to identify like how many sites do offer me sport research or subacute or pediatrics, it will give you a list. So mapping a setting to a site might become in handy when you wish to extract a report to identify how many sites you are holding for a particular practice specialty. And again, all the settings which are mapped here will be also inherited or which will be also applicable to all the locations which will fall under this particular parent site. For the category, when you click on pencil icon, you'll be able to see the list of category which we added under the setup tile first. Those categories can be mapped with this particular site. It can be a private practice or a standalone clinic category which we have created under setup. We can associate those categories. And if we are associating any particular categories, all the associated locations of this site will also get this updated there. Also, if we have any general documents like onboarding documents or a general site guidelines which a student needs to go through and read, we can also add those in the document section. When you click on the plus icon, where the drawer will show up, where you can add the mandatory fields such as name, whether it's an archive document, whether we need to share this document to the students, you need to ensure that those tiny checkboxes have been checked off. And if you have a template or a document which you wish to share, you can also upload it. But the condition here is the file size should be less than 10 MB. And once the requirement is added, hit save. Also, we have notes which can be used for internal purposes. Also, we can request this, we can share the notes with students as well. Like for example, if they are placed on a location and if they need to go through a particular material from a site website, we can also include those information. Or if it's a note for a school internal reporting purposes, we can also add it. We need to just click on that particular plus icon. The drawer will show up where you can type in the paragraph and save that information. Taking a question break. Ami and Shanda, if you can check if you have any questions in the chat.
So I do not currently see any questions in the question box. Ami, is that the same for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, moving further, contracts. So on the First tab we have completed till now is about within a particular site, which is in my example, it's an abundant health. Next is contracts. We can also house contracts for a particular site under contracts tab. So when we click on the plus icon next to the list of contracts, a drawer will show up where you need to fill out the mandatory fields such as contract name, contract number is something which you can add. If you're using a document which has a contract number, you can also house that number. Any particular tax ID, a contract initiated by, contract start date. If it is an open-ended contract, if it does not has an expiration, you have to check off this tiny checkbox. The expiration date will get grayed out. The contract template where you will select whether it's an university contract, whether it's a facility template, or whether it's a modified template. You can also even select whether it's an active contract or inactive contract by selecting those status as yes or no. You can also capture what is the current status of this contract, whether it is in negotiation, whether it's executed, whether it's finalized, and you can also leave a note for the uh, team from the school so that if they wish to refer what is the exact position, why did this is not fully executed, you can also leave a note for the team from the school. And also if we have any reference addresses like address name or a firm, we can also capture their address, line 1, city, state, and zip code. Once the contract has been added, you can also add the contact details of that particular site. If you wish to reach out to that person in future again to renew a contract, these details might come in handy for you. But we have to specify the first name, designation, email, phone number, and additional details. Currently, those fields are non-mandatory. If you have those details, we can always capture them so that it might come in handy for you in future. And once you save this information, it will start reflecting. And if you have more than one person, at the bottom you will see a button which says add contact person, and you can add one more additional programs which is covering this particular contract. When you click on the pencil icon, you'll be able to edit the programs and select them. If it is not applicable, you can even uncheck them and save it as well. Any particular category which is applicable to this contract, like annual amendment or single use contract, or is it an umbrella contract, you can select those category which we added under that setup tab first. And we can even save this particular information. Once the contract information is added, we need to also mention what are the list of locations which this particular contract is covering. If it is the same as the place where we are sending our students, definitely those sites are already added by you. When you checked off the tiny checkbox which says, do you want to add this site as a location? Those locations will show up and you need to select them. So in this scenario, for locations covered, when I click on the plus icon, it will show me the list of locations which is under this particular corporation. So I need to just select for which this contract is applicable and save this. Likewise, routing checklist. When we click on the pencil icon, the drawer will open whether it's completed, whether it's applicable or whether it's not applicable. You can turn this bit on. And if it is applicable, you can also select the date, which is signed by the dean or provisit or the department. And you can leave a comment if it is anything pending so that you can track that information. Likewise, we can also have a physically signed off contract document within the system. Under contract documents, you will see a plus sign. When you click on it, the drawer will show up where you can add the document name, which should be the same name like a site name, and upload document date. So on which date you're uploading this, any particular notes which might come in handy in future for you. If it's an old document, you can mark it as an archive document. If it's a new document, you can leave it unchecked. And if you wish to share this with the students, you need to check where it says share it with the students. If you have that physical document which has been signed off, you can upload that PDF copy or the format which is supported mentioned below. The file size should be always less than 10 MB. Once the document is added, you will save this information by clicking on save. Under contracts, we can also link the existing contract with other sites as well. So once I have added this contract, and if it is also applicable to a different corporation or altogether an overarching entity, then you have link contract option. When you click on it, the drawer will show up. Either you can search that particular or corporation, or you can even select the corporation if it is showing up in the list. If it is applicable to multiple corporations, then even you can select multiple options from the list and save it. And also we can generate contracts. In order to get the template added into the system, you have to generate a support ticket by sending an email at v4support@exact.com. So the team will help you set up the document. Once the document shows up here, you can select that document and click on generate. Next is locations. So within under a site, when we go under a site and click on that site name, you will see the third tab as locations. And in order to add a new location, if it's an overarching site which has multiple locations, that's where you will add an additional location if you have a contract in place. When you click on add location, a drawer will show up where you have to specify the mandatory details such as name, address line 1, city, state, zip code. But you can also add label, location, area, address line 2, which might come in handy, whether it's a domestic address or whether it's an international address as well. So once you click on that location name, you will land on the first tab on the left hand side, which you see is About. If you wish to go back and re-edit the location information which you have just added, under About, when you click on the pencil icon, it will show up with all the information which you have just filled, and you can go back in and re-edit it as needed. And as you can see, that contract information which is inherited from the parent, but it does not shares the contract document or contract category as an example in this case. Next is settings. If you wish to map a setting to a particular location, you will click on pencil icon. As you can see, there are two categories: inherited from site and location settings. If you say that this particular site is not offering you acute care, you can just click on that tiny X mark to remove that setting. And if this particular location only offers a particular setting, then you can pick the setting from the bottom and just click on it. And if it is also applicable for all the location, then you can also turn that bit on and save it. So mapping a setting to a location will help you extract a report in future, like to identify how many sites we are offering or what is the location specific setting which we tied to that particular location as well. Category. If you need to map a particular category to a location, and when you click on the pencil icon, you'll be able to see all the list of categories which are inherited, or if it is just a location specific category, you can also select. If it is not a major medical center, if it's just a private practice, then you can just click on that tile and remove the major medical center from the list and save it, so that that particular location specific category gets mapped. Requirements. If this particular location has a requirements, before the student gets placed, they might need to do a couple of documents, right? It's a site specific document. So we can show the list of requirements, but again, you can see this is also inherited from the corporation. The inherited from site is basically the background check, drug screening, the captions of that particular requirement. But if you say that this particular location does not have this many requirements, they have only one or two like MMR or TB, you can also even manually add and save this. If it is also applicable for multiple location, even you can turn on that bit which is applicable for all these locations. Likewise, once we mention the requirements for of this particular site, and if you wish to collect a signed off document from the students when they get placed prior to their placement, and if you click on the plus icon, a drawer will appear where you can see the list of mandatory fields where you can type in the document name, whether we need to enable it for students, whether we need to upload a template. Once we add this information, and if any new requirement gets added or made changes in the existing requirement, will not be visible to the students who have already began or already completed their placement at their location. And if you have any general documents for this particular location, we can also house it like a onboarding document or um, uh, a particular checklist for the site. We can also house it here. If whether we need to share it with the students or whether this needs to be archived, you need to check those tiny check boxes at the bottom. And even if you have a template, you can also upload them. Also, we can have notes for the location added under notes section, whether this notes needs to be shared with students or is it for an internal use. When you click on the plus icon, the drawer will show up. Likewise, for housing and parking facility, when you click on the plus icon, the drawer will show up. If the students who requests out of state and they will require a housing or a parking facility, this information might come in handy for them to know that list of sites which are offering them housing and parking facility. So let's take a pause and go through once again what is inherited versus what is not inherited. So from the corporation to a location, requirements are inherited, settings are inherited, categories, documents, and student requirements. If you feel any option which might not be applicable for that individual location, you can manually go in and remove it. Also, There are a couple of information which is not inherited is contracts, like contract document, contract expiration date. Those information will not be inherited. How do we associate a personal to a location? So we have till now completed about for a particular location. Now we will go through how do we associate a personal. So when we click on personal tab, you will see a add associate personal on the top. A drawer will appear where you can see the list of personnel who are already mapped with that site. If the personnel is not there, even you can click on add a person and mention all the mandatory fields such as first name, last name, email address, whether this person will serve as a preceptor, whether this person needs to be included in slot request. All those information needs to be added and then clicked on next. And that on this next step, we have to assign a role, whether we need to include that person in slot request or whether we need to include an email notification. This will help you sending those emails of placements or request and availability at that moment. Designation to identify what is the current designation of that person or the practice specialty, which is practice setting. We can also map that information and save this. Next is personal communication. So on the location, we can also capture the location communication. On the right hand side, you will click on add communication. A drawer will show up. What type of communication we had, mode of communication, like whether it was audio, whether it was a video, communication like the student um, missed a session there, or you had a one-on-one session with a particular per site personnel. If you wish to have a log so that it might come in handy during the site assessment, this communication might come in handy for you. If you have any particular follow-ups, if you have any particular document which was used during that communication, you can house that information here. Slots. If you need to capture an availability of a location manually, then you have to click on add slots, where you have to specify a couple of information, but the only mandatory field here is number of students. The information which we can map on slots is uh, clinician settings, slot status type, supervision type, and also we can include notes for the students or notes for the internal use as well. For a particular rotation, for a particular duration, we have to specify the number of students who will be there on that location. And once we do that, we have to just hit save so that the location slots get captured. Placements. Under placements, we will be able to see a entire report of the list of students who got placed on that particular location with a particular detail like site name, location name, preceptor detail for the what is the course name, what is the rotation name, what is the start date of the course, what is the end date of the course, all the information. And we can extract that information in a spreadsheet format. We can customize the column using that wrench icon, and the funnel icon will allow you to narrow down or slice the information so that you can get a desired report. Intervention. If the student has any challenge, or if we had any challenge like lack of PPE kits or missed any site assessments or clinical instruction, you know, instructions were absent for the particular location, we can have those interventions added into the system. All we have to do is just click on add interventions. The drawer will show up. We need to specify the mode of communication initiated by contact with any particular rotation we had this intervention or any particular subject uh, points or responsibilities which was discussed, date of intervention, what is the current status, whether it is open, whether it is closed, any documents which were used, any reference material which was used during that conversation, we can upload that. And if any follow-up is required, you will click on add follow-up at the bottom and save this information. You will might get trigger a notification for communication or intervention, but you can extract reports as needed. Assessments. For a particular location, you can do assessments by clicking on Add Assessments. The drawer will show up our basic information such as mode of visit, whether it was in person, video call, or audio call, whether it's a phone call, type of location visit, who is doing the location visit, date of location visit, the placement information. So the assessment of the location assessments come in handy for three reasons. Like before we send any students to the clinical location, and if the school wishes to do a site visit, at that moment, this particular location assessments will come in handy for you. And when we have a students on a clinical location and we need to uh, evaluate the location, at that moment, this location assessments will come in handy. Also, when the student has completed a clinical in that particular location, then also to maintain a good relationship with that particular location, faculties can also do an assessment on this particular location as well. So we do have a standard form. Also, we can have a customized form as per the school's requirement. If you are selecting the standard form, you will see the by default set of questions which are set by Exact. But if you need a standard form, you need to reach out to V4 support at exact.com to get your form configured. So once the form has been configured, you will click on next. The drawer will show up with the list of questions where you will fill it out, and click on next where the summary will show up, and click on follow up details. Next is HRSA grant information. If the school is interested in capturing the HRSA grant information, you have to just click on the pencil icon and specify all the questions in answers like yes and no, whether you have HSPAPC, you are MIJA, MPU, those information. Moving or deleting location. So circling back to the top of the particular page, on the right hand side when we were discussing, we can also move a location if you feel that this location is no longer associated with this corporation, or if this location has been mistakenly added to a wrong corporation. You can also manually move this location by clicking on this move location button. The drawer will show up where you have to select the appropriate corporation, or the you have to click on the radio button and click on next. And if you wish to delete the location, you will have the delete icon. When you click on it, if there is any particular slots or placement, the system will not allow you to delete. But if there are no dependency, it will show you a 2-digit code on the left hand side, and it will request you to type in. In this scenario, I will go with like there is a dependency. So the pop-up should look like something like this, where it says cannot be deleted because there are slots and placements available on this locations. Location movement history, as we just saw that we can also move location. If we go a step back on the location tab where we add location, next to that there is a tiny button which says location movement history. When you click on that, it will give you the entire history of like from which location to which location the uh, location has been moved, and you can also capture the timestamp and the person who has moved that particular location. Just taking a question break. Shanda or Amy, can you please let me know if you have any questions?
So there was a question that came in, Sai, and it
Mhm,
was in regard to running reports
mhm.
based on categories within contracts. I did reply to the respondent and let them know that we would go over reports in detail. So we can await that if you when we get to the reports page, if you can just go over. Um, I know
Absolutely.
that
Just to,
there's not a specific report, understandable.
thank you so much, Shanda, for letting me know that. Just to answer that question, yes, we can do apply filter on categories so that you can get the desired output on based on the category which you have created. Moving on to the next topic, which is site personal. So under the particular site, the fourth tab is personal. So before we
Sai,
deep dive, just yes, please.
I apologize. There was one more question
Yes,
in
please.
the chat for this section. Will the
Mhm.
personnel associated with locations be moved as well?
We cannot
So
move a
on the
personal, but we can associate a personal with other sites as well. Okay. So if a personal has no dependency, like if the personal is not associated with the student placement or not associated with the site, then definitely we can just delete and re-add it back to the appropriate site or location. If you feel that the personal has been mistakenly added to the wrong location and the dependency is already created, then first we need to remove the dependency, and then we have to manually add the personal to the appropriate location. But if the personal has been shared across multiple sites, we can also assign that personal to the multiple sites as well, which I'll show you right now. As on my screen on the left hand side first column, for example for Jessica Hua, you can see there is a tiny chip which says from other site because that particular person has been mapped from a different site to this particular site. Okay. So when I add a person, it will show up a drawer basically where I will add all the details such as first name of the personal, last name of the personal, all the details, including whether we need to include that in slot request, whether we need to include in email notification, whether this is an active personal, inactive personal, whether this personal serves as a particular clinician, yes or no. We need to also capture the email address. It's a mandatory field, and also we can capture the additional details. Under About, we can also capture the personal specific information such as CV, licensure, board certification. And when we click on Add this personal, you will see a pop-up as well. Do you want to associate this person to all the location under this site at once? And if you click on no, we will do it later, then you have to manually go in each and every location as needed and map it. If you click on yes, associate, it will map this personal with all the location underneath it. We can capture the notes, licensure documents, and assistance as well. So as we're talking about association, few minutes back there was a question from the audience that how do we move a personnel? If there is no dependency, as I answered, we can delete. If we need to just move that or associate that personnel on a different location, we can also do that. So when we click on association or for that personnel, on the right hand side, you will be able to see the plus icon. The drawer will show up. If it is an existing location, then select it from the option. If it is a different location of a site, then the second step where you can search that location or you can pick the location from the list and click on next to associate it. And you have to specify whether we need to include that person in slot request, personal in email notification, designation, or a practice setting. Currently, those are non-mandatory fields. If you wish to skip, if you don't need to schedule, include them in slot or email request, we can also leave it unchecked and click on next. Last step is summary. It will show up all the information which was mapped and save it. Communication of the personnel. If we had any communication with this particular personnel, when we click on add personnel, like for the example, student was absent for a day, and if you had a conversation, and if the student is frequently taking a leaves, or if the personnel is on leave or for XYZ reason for a longer duration, we can also have this communication added in this section. Any team from the school is referring, this might come in handy for them as well. Interventions. If a student has any particular, if a personal has any interventions, like the student has missed a session on this particular with this personal, we can have this intervention added, like mode of intervention, whether it was audio, video, email, or in person, initiated by, contacted with any particular rotation for which this has taken place, any particular key points which they wish to mention, date of intervention, whether it's an open intervention, whether it's a closed intervention, whether it's do we refer to any particular material during that intervention. We can house that information, and if any follow-up is required, we have to just click on add follow-up and save it. Site slots. So on the top, till now we have completed about contracts, like how the contracts are being added, how we can extract contract reports, location, all the list of location if it's an overarching entity, and how do we add a location specific information such as about, association, all those personal specific information. Now slots. For the slots, when we click on, you'll be able to see the statistics, like if we are using a slot request, we will be able to know from this tab. uh, it's a centralized database where you can see for entire program how many slots for a particular location and a rotation we got, like how many offered slots we have, how many are available, how many students got placed, who will be the clinician. And if you wish to also add a slot, if you don't have a slots added here, you can also click on add slots, where the drawer will show up, where you can select the location for which you wish to add a slot. You can select the clinician setting, whether it's a confirmed slot, what is the type of slot status, what is the slot type, any supervision type, but you have to specify the number of students who will be on that slot. And you can also extract the slot specific information in a spreadsheet. You can also even customize the columns by clicking on the trench icon, and also you can filter the information by clicking on the funnel icon. Site placements. When you click on site placements, you will be able to see the list of students who got placed on that site or a location which is associated with that site. You'll be able to extract the information in spreadsheet. You can edit the columns, and you can even filter the information using the funnel icon. Student interventions. So on this particular site, if you had any interventions, when we click on the plus add intervention, you'll be able to see the intervention drawer, and you have to fill out the mode of intervention, all the mandatory fields, contacted with, subject, any particular points which were discussed, any document which was used, any date of intervention. And the same intervention was also there for students, location, and also it is also applicable for personnel. Site communication. For example, if you're having a contract discussion, if you wish to have a communication which was going on with the site person, and if you wish to have that contact communication housed in the system, this place might come in handy for you, whether it was done on audio, email, or video call. When you click on add communication, the drawer will show up, which looks pretty similar like the intervention, where you can specify the mode of communication communicated with any particular key points which were discussed, communication date, and you can also even upload the reference material which was used during that conversation, any follow-up information which was used. Site assessments. So for that particular site, you will see a tab on the top. When you click on add site assessments, the drawer will show up where you can see the basic information, the mode of sites, the type of site visit, who is doing the site visit, date of site visit. So the same site assessment we also had on the location level as well, which we were calling it as location assessments, where you can also select the student who are at the particular location, or if you need to select a student on the particular site as well, we can also do that. And we can also use the form selection, whether we need to go with the standard form, whether we need to have a customized form. As mentioned earlier, if you need to have a customized form for the program, you need to generate a support ticket, sending an email on before support@exact.com, so that our team can get in touch with you and create the customized site visit form. And once the site visit form has been filled, you'll be able to see the all the questions and you can save it. And when you click on next, you'll be able to see the summary of the form, and even you can set up the follow up and other information as well. Site communication. Any communication which has taken place with this particular site, we can house this information here. The drawer will show up where we can have all the communication which was done with this site. We can have it and we can extract them as a reports, and you need to just fill out all the mandatory fields, any supporting documents which was used during the site communication. It might come in handy for you. Deleting a site. So coming back to the top of the first tab of the screen, which is about, on the top right corner you have delete site. If the site has any dependencies like slots and placements, the system will not allow you. If there is no dependency, then it will show you a two-digit number which you have to type in, and it will allow you to delete. But in my case, I took a site which has a dependency. You will see a pop-up and it will say cannot be deleted because of there are slots and placements available on it. Explore clinical location. So I'm going to take a pause on here and let me switch to the live screen to help you with. So
Si,
when you
could
log in, yes, please.
I apologize. As you were switching screens, I was going to see if we could take a pause and ask some questions that have been submitted. So there were some really important questions asked about if you mark a personnel at a site as inactive, will it mark them inactive at any other associated sites or
Yes,
locations?
yes, because that personnel has been already marked as inactive in the system, right? So the personnel, if has been marked as with any location associated with any location, will also get marked as inactive in the system. Okay.
So the false.
Instead of marking that personnel as inactive, we can just deassociate or remove the dependency from A site and just have that person added to the B site, because the person is still active but just performing or practicing on a different site. That should be the best practice there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So moving on to the live screens to understand explore clinical locations. So when you log in into your system, you will go to sites. Till now we have covered all the tabs till explore clinical locations. When you click on explore clinical location, you will be able to see the list of sites which you have in the system. You can apply filter on state, city, zip code, name. Also you can apply filter on particular location area. You can apply filter on particular setting. For example, I'll select acute care and click on show results. You'll be able to see I have one site which is offering me acute care. So this gives you an idea like why do we need to map a setting to a particular site or a location, so that we can see that a location in the system, and when you click on it you will be able to see the location specific information such as location name, address, site name, any particular location details such as location setting, whether it is providing parking facility, housing facility, any location requirements which we have, any location specific notes, and the contract documents. This information is viewable by admin, but only the students can see. When they click on this location, they will be able to see the basic information and location information and notes which are shared by the school to the students only. We can apply filter on tags which we have created. Let me clear all. So, and even we can even draw a miles of radius. For example, if I say I need to see the list of locations from school which falls under 25 miles of radius, and you'll be able to see a couple of pins as well as circle with a two icon on it. So if two locations are nearby, it will club into a circle and it will show a number. When I click on it, it will zoom in a little bit and it will show me the both the locations. If I hover on it, you will be able to see those locations on map. And even you can click on the left hand side to see the details of that particular location as well. Apart from this, you can also reset everything by clicking on reset all, and you can also apply filters such as on program, for which program you would like to see the locations, whether it's an inactive location, whether it's an active location, whether it falls under rural or whether it falls under reserved population, or if you want to search a particular category, like if it's a private practice or if it's a major medical center, we can select that as well. Okay, just taking a pause to check if you have any questions on explore clinical locations. Or Shanda, if you can
This
check if
is,
you have any more questions, please. Yes, please go ahead.
yes. The question, if you have documents listed at the location tab, are students able to see these documents as well?
Not on the map, but they can see it during prior to their placements. If it's a student location specific requirement documents, definitely they can see those documents. Like a site specific document, right? They have to complete it. Yes, they can see it on placement, not on the map. But we can leave a note if that particular location has a requirement as well. So
Angela,
coming
could you
back,
tell us if that was specific for the explore locations option on the map? If you could give us that response in the chat, just so that we're sure we clarify appropriately. Thank you, Sai.
thank you, Shanda. Moving on to the explore clinical locations, I'm just going to skip it because as we just saw it on the live screen, we applied filters on states. Sorry, we can apply filter on different site, state, cities, zip code. We can apply filter on location area. We can apply filter on settings. We can even apply on tags. We can even draw miles of radius and see how many locations are falling under that miles of radius. And we can also reset everything which was applied filter. And we can also narrow down the information by using the filter icon. We can apply filter on program status, rural, under-reserved population, or even category as well. Next is slots. So slots is basically email where we request the sites their availability. So we can set up a new communication by clicking on set up a new communication button. You can type the title of the communication like slot request or request sites with the updated location information. You can create it. So we can request the slots from a site, or we can also request the locations to update their information. You have to turn those bits on and click on next. So it's a three-step where we have to configure the slot. So where we gather the availability of student placements, that's where we will select the rotation for which this particular slot request is applicable. Any instruction notes which are applicable. Next is settings which are applicable. If it is applicable for all the settings, all the slot types, we will mark it as all. And if we need to have auto notification when the slot is confirmed, or when a personnel clicks on contact later for slots or follow-up slots request, you have to turn on it on, and you will be also able to see the templates as well. Also, you can choose a faculty or staff that serves as a contact for clinicians who have questions during the slot request process as well. At the bottom, you can also add instructions for the clinicians who will be seeing that slot request email. And when they are providing you the slots, they can follow the guidelines or the manual which you are sharing with them. So once you create the slot request and click on save, you will see this grid view and you will see the slot configured in the list. You have to click on send email. You will be able to see the list of locations and you will have the third column, which is the recipients, where you will see all the clinical personals in the list. When you select those locations, those recipients will receive those email. And when you click on save and next step is to compose an email. When you click on compose email, those emails will go to the sites. And if you wish to track the status of those links which have been rolled out to the sites, when you go to the dashboard, you have email dashboard column where you have the statistics icon. When you click on it, a drawer will show up where you can see all the emails which went through the system, whether the link was clicked, whether the link was dropped, whether the link was cancelled, whether the link was bounced back. You'll be able to see them. And if any particular location requests you to resend, you can also resend them by clicking on resend button. So this is what a site sees as an email. They will receive an email with a link. When they click on that link, first they will see the instructions which were set by the school, and also if the school is sharing a reference material or a manual, at the bottom they will see a view document button. When they click on it, they will be able to see those documents. When they click on start, that's where they will be able to see the provide they will be able to provide the availability, or if they wish to request you to contact later, or if they are unable to accept this moment. But if they click on add availability, they will be able to provide you the availability. But also in addition to that, on the right hand side, you will see rotation details, who will be their school point of contact, whom they can reach out to. And when they click on add availability, the drawer will show up where they can select their name as a clinician for which practice specialty they can take. If your school is requesting the slot type and supervision type, you can also select them. The clinician can select them for that particular clinical rotation, the duration, the number of students where the clinician can take. They will provide the number and they will click on save. Once it is saved, they will see the review and submit it. Once the email is submitted, you will be able to see the responses later. Okay. Taking a question break, Shanda, just to check if you have any questions in the chat.
There are no additional questions, Sai, but just a couple of points that I would like to call out, specifically in mentioning the slot request process. So if we think about the adding personnel or associating personnel, it's really important for us to remember those tiny boxes that Sai mentioned in his presentation um, for those things. So do you want these associated personnel to be included in slot requests? Do you want these associated personnel to be included in email notifications? The other really important box is will this person, excuse me, will this personnel serve as a preceptor for this location? Uh, so side, that was just a couple of call outs from going back to the personnel association at sites and locations, just so that we're aware that those boxes feed to so many other parts of the system. It's really important for us to ensure that we mark appropriately at the time of associating or adding personnel at the site and location level.
Thank you, Shanda.
Of course.
Just taking one more bit pause. Do we have any questions in chat? Could you please confirm?
I don't see any other questions that have been asked.
Thank you, Shanda. Moving further, next is reports. So when we click on the reports tab under the site, you will be able to see the list of reports which are made for site. The first one, the site detail report. This is a very comprehensive report where you will see the site address, contact, contract information, location information, any requirement information, status, or any settings, notes, documents, everything is included. So when we click on the site details, the drawer will show up where you will see all the list of information, and you will have these three icons. First, tiny page icon, which allows you to extract all the information in a spreadsheet format so that you can apply filters and slice and dice. But the edit column or the wrench icon, which allows you to make changes in the column, like if you wish to remove a column, if you wish to change the sequence of the column by dragging those six dots or clicking on those arrows, that will allow you to change the sequence and download them as a customized report. The funnel icon allows you to apply, filter, and narrow down the information. Okay, so we can interchange the sequence by using those six dots, or even we can delete the rows if we click on the tiny trash icon, Or if we just need to make a tiny step change in the columns, you can use the tiny arrows as well. Filter icon allows you to apply filter on a particular setting or associated programs, associated states, whether it's active, whether it's inactive, whether it's particular falls under a particular state, and the tags as well. When we come back to reports, we also have reports for locations, right? Location detail, location assessment status, and assessment details. So for the location report, details report, when we click on the location detail report, on the right hand side, you will be able to see the three same tiny icons. Again, this is a comprehensive report which will include this particular location is associated with site, address, date, zip code, all the phone number, websites, requirements of that particular location, any notes which is included, parking facility or housing facility. Those information is also extracted in this information. Likewise, when we go to personal report, we have personal detailed reports, we have personal location details, personal board certification reports entered, any personal sport certification is missing, or any personal licensure information, or if any particular personal licensure information is missing in the system, we can extract. So let's focus on this particular location detailed report. As you can see that I have customized this column. I have changed the column using the wrench icon. First two columns are basically personal name and email. The third column I changed it to associated program, then associated location name and the designation. So you can also even use the wrench icon to make those changes in the column and extract them as a report. Again, these are runtime report. If you delete a particular column or if you make a change or edit in the column, like changing the sequence of the column, but if you refresh the page of the browser, everything will get back to reset. Sharing site resources. Just taking a pause, Shanda, to check if you have any questions regarding reports in chat.
I do not see any additional questions.
Okay. Moving on to the live screen to show this site resources page. So when we log in into the Exxat account, to view the site resources page, we will go to the program details. Under setup, the third option is site resources page. We will click on here where we can set the welcome message, where we can set the announcement. And if we click on announcement, you have this tiny arrow. When you click on here, it will take you to the new page where you have to click on add announcement, which I showed in the first setup, right? If you click on add announcement, you have to specify those details, and this announcement will show up on the site resources page. Likewise, you can share the clinical education schedule. If you click on this tiny arrow, it will open up in a new page where you have to select a particular course from the list and go to the rotation, click on that clinical rotation name, and you have to ensure the show on site resources page is turned on. Likewise, we can also add resources for a clinician. It can be a generic resources like university magazine or university frequently asked questions or quick links or videos which can help a clinician. Also, we can have course specific documents such as syllabi or a reading material which they can refer during a student with that clinical rotation. So you have to pick and choose whether it's a course document, whether it's a selected resources. So you have to click on that information and you will land on the course offering page. You will click on the particular course name. On the left hand side, you will have the resources tab where you can see this category as syllabus, course policies, reading materials. You have to select that category first, click on add resource, and you will be able to add the information such as whether it's a document, video, if it's a frequently asked question, or links. And you have to ensure that the bit is turned on where it says show on site resources page. Going back to the screen, any clinical education context, like if a clinician is having a query, challenge, or a concern, if they need to reach out to a school point of contact, then if you click on this tiny arrow, it will take you to the faculty and staff page where you can choose a person who can be their point of contact. So for example, if I need to mark Stacy Chapman as my point of contact, I'll click on the pencil icon, sorry, sharing icon, contact sharing button, and I'll go to the bottom where it says share on site resources. I'll turn this bit on. Couple of schools prefer to copy their email signature and paste it in other notes because it contains the fax number, phone number, their logo, everything under it. But couple of schools to prefer a set message like please reach out to me so and so days and time so that they can see or monitor those. And if your school is having a common DL where all those emails can fall, you can also share that email information here. Once this button is added, you have to just hit save and you have to go back to the page. If you wish to see the site resources page, you need to scroll to the top and you will have view site resources page button, which is in orangish color on the right hand side. When you click on that button, a page will open up. Now, who can have this access to this site resources page? Nobody can Google it and find it out this page. A person or a user has to copy this URL and share it with a particular recipient. Either you can share it during your slot request or a placement request or sending a placement notification so that your clinical site partners can be aware about like what are the messages from school, what are the schedules, what are the resources they can access, any point of contact they can reach out to. This might also even come in handy for PT schools during the M&M slot requests. So you can see the messages from school on the left hand side, the welcome message which is set. And when we click on the clinical education schedule, you will be able to see the clinical courses which are being taught, what is the duration, how many weeks it will take. You will be able to see that. Going back to the home screen, any resources which are being shared, a program wide resources like a handbook, a general document, you can see the mission, you can see the policy of that program. And also you have a tiny tab on the same program wide, which is a course specific document. When you click on it, you will be able to see the list of courses which are available on the left hand side, whether it's a syllabus or whether it's a reading material. You can click on it and see that particular document by clicking on view document. You can also apply filter on those tiny checkboxes just to focus on that reading material. If I go back on home screen, when I click on course specific resources for clinician, again it will take me to the same course specific tab. So you can move between program wide resources and course specific resources. Moving back to the home screen, the last tab you will see is clinical education contacts. So when I click on clinical education contacts, few minutes back we activated Stacy Chapman as an example, right? So you can see Stacy's email address, the phone number where you can reach out to. Likewise, you might also see some messages from school. For example, please reach out to me between Monday to Wednesday before 3 p.m. ET. Thank you. This is on clinical explore location. Let me switch back to my presentation. I'm going to skip a little fast because as we covered on live screen. So we went to program details. We clicked on site resources under setup first tab. We added all the information such as welcome message, announcements, clinical education schedules, resources for clinicians or any clinical education contact. When we clicked on view site resources page, we just need to ensure that any recipient who wants to have access to this page, we need to share this link with them. Either we can send a part of a placement notification or a welcome email to the preceptor. You can copy this URL and have it as a part of your email template. Site resources page, where we went through each and every tab, program wide resources, course specific resources, clinician contact, help resources. So we also, all the topics which we have covered today is also housed on our help center. And the link is mentioned above. You will see those manuals added on help center by step instructions with the screenshots added in it. And the next series on webinar is on student workflow and module, which is on Thursday, Feb 15th. And registration link is in the presentation. You can also use the webinar, exact webinar to register yourself to that particular webinar. Thank you, everyone.